letter you had written to us that I believe is out in the packets. So you were still waiting to hear from him. You've been to several meetings where you've been kind of laying out
all throughout the country. And, you know, we're no different. And control expenditures. We have to be more fiscally accountable. Education and educators have not been fiscally accountable.
At this point, with the laws we've got, there will be no court-imposed punishment for the children involved in the school incident.
And it's at this point that I've decided to step back from politics for a while. Life's short, and I want to take some time to enjoy it. Person has been a real conservative that way. Another program that we worked for. And
how can we believe anything that is said that comes from that desk from now?
One of the highlights of the session will benefit those who own a cabin. Under the tax bill, cabin owners would see a slight drop in their property tax rates starting in 1997. In the past, you could only bring in one fish from Ontario. Now the legislature has agreed to repeal the one-fish law. Governor Carlson used an executive order in time for the Ontario opener. You may remember Duluth's controversy over giving haircuts to the homeless. Well, if you want to do that now, it's okay. A measure exempting barbering services for charitable purposes from licensing requirements was prompted by a cease and desist order issued to 2 Duluth volunteers. Insurance companies will have to pay for bone marrow transplants for breast cancer patients. The treatment can cost up to $65,000. Driver's licenses of deadbeat dads could be suspended under legislation that gives the state more power to collect child support payments. Under legislation passed this session, veterans and fraternal clubs that sponsor charitable gambling will now get a substantial tax break. And good news for young hockey players. To help ease the squeeze on ice time, $2.8 million was earmarked to help build 60 to 70 ice rinks around the state. And finally, reacting to the Oklahoma City bombing, teaching someone how to use a gun or make a bomb to be used in civil disorder would be a crime under legislation aimed at discouraging the formation of violent militias and terrorist organizations.
To debate and eventually has to face. Corridor coalitions, such as the Highway 73 coalition, can bring to the attention of their elected representatives on the state level what in fact are the problems that are affecting their communities because of the condition of the highway that serves their communities. So yeah, there's some real positive benefits in that way. As you had indicated, we are in a relatively static highway funding situation, 7 years with
My concern is that
I think the bottom line is that Duluth has been controversial over the mall, and in the beginning, many of the backers against the mall did contact those financial backers and actually raised questions, basically said they didn't want them here. And as a result of that, the financial community has decided they want hands off until this deal is closed. They don't want any negative publicity.
It was a long trip, 9 months and 7,000 miles long. Today, Siegfried Guest came home to Superior after fulfilling a lifelong dream.
You know, it's a dream I always had. I mean, I had a business in Minneapolis, and my office was right on the edge of the Mississippi, and I looked down that river and I said, one day I'm going to go down and don't come back.
In sailing alone, that trip took him through some of the major river systems in the United States, the Mississippi, the Ohio, and the Tennessee, to name just a few. He exited through the Gulf of Mexico and came home the hard way, up the East Coast. The pictures you see here are from Guest's video record of his trip, and along the way, a few things grabbed his attention.
You know, the unspoiled, you know, wilderness that still exists in the United States. And I think the major impression I bring back from this trip is I never felt as safe in my life as I did on this trip.
The German-born Guest moved to Minong after retiring a few years back. He has no plans to repeat his entire journey, though he may try a segment once again.
But I'm thinking of next time, like taking the boat down and leaving it down, like somewhere like along the Gulf Coast. Not to have to come up, you know. I mean, it's a long haul up the East Coast.
In Superior, Jeff Pappas, Channel 6 News.
That's all I need. I get, the very poor are taken care of by the public defender system, and they have access to public money and pretty good lawyers. The very rich can get the F. Lee Baileys and Johnny Cochrans of this world. But if you're ordinary, working stiff in the middle, you don't have either. I have a little farm.
A little farm? Good Lord.
40 acres.
Where's that?
We had, when the children were home, we get 4 or 5 vegetables in one city, all fresh vegetables.
Oh, gosh. See, that's what I'd like to do, is have a small little hobby farm.
Oh.
There's
Well, really, it's a dream that's come true. When transitional housing was initiated, we were providing temporary housing for women to provide a safe, affordable place for them to get on their feet again and to help them become self-sufficient. And what we realized was that women and children really need long-term, safe, affordable housing.
The medical tent in Canal Park was empty today, but tomorrow it likely won't be. With summer-like temperatures and humidity forecast, medical officials estimate that 1 runner in 10 will need treatment here tomorrow. And it's the average marathon runner who will bear the brunt.
The morning portion of the race is usually pretty cool until 10 o'clock. The elite runners are in between 10 and 10:30. Most of the half marathoners should be in decent shape. Even if they finish at 2 to 3 hours, they'll still be in the morning. It's the runners that finish at the 3 to 4 to 5 hour times that start to run into problems when the noon temperatures start to hit.
At today's packet pickup at the deck, the weather was on everyone's mind. One local runner says he knows how to deal with the heat, and one of the elite women has a tip for those who may not be so lucky.
Last year it was really hot too, so you just got to learn to take it easy and slow down, not push yourself really hard. So I'm just doing it to have fun and not kill myself with heat exhaustion.
I think the only way to deal with the heat is you can't exactly expect to run as fast as you want to, and you got to take fluids at every stop. I mean, I think that's just, you have to, whether you're thirsty or not, because by the time you're thirsty, it's too late. You're already dehydrated by then.
How much of it is just knowing your body and knowing your limits when you're talking about safely competing in a day like tomorrow?
I think there is. You have to know your limits and your body, but when it comes to the...
What we would do is close that in a little tighter, create a gate being the foundation. Let's just scrape the slate clean and see what we should really be doing down here.
Enjoyable time here. They will discover things, and they truly will. We're not ready to move anything tomorrow.
We want to bring this out to the community. We want to use the venues we can, whether it be Channel 7, possibly take it to the Bayside Sounds.
They'll remember him as a guy who, like I say, he's always smiling, he's always having fun, and never had anything bad to say about anybody. And I think people remember Steve as being a very, very class person.
You can retain more when you go and hands-on experience rather than just looking through textbooks and stuff, because that gets boring.
For example, clearly with the history of the three barracks and more housing and another commercial office building here.
The traffic has stopped people from parking on 21st Street, so now I can never find a parking place in front of my own home.
On 12 heaters, and the 2-hour hearing is a pretty good hearing. The people get out of work at 5 o'clock, and they go home, and they still get down.
Members of the council, my name is Nicola Hills, and I live at 326 East Bay Street. Before I begin, I would like to say...
It sure amazes me that 2.5 hours ago, President Keenan, you asked the councilors if 5 o'clock was all right. And there was only one person that said no, it's Councilor Bowman.
In the midst of the flames, smoke, and haze, firefighters continue to work to put out the last of 4 fires in the Boundary Water Canoe area. Equipment and water drops were made routinely throughout the day. The Swede fire is contained and crews are slowly shifting to help contain the windshell fire. Behind the scenes, the real heroes are the men and the women who make up these valiant fire crews. Some members have come from all over the country to combat these forest fires.
They're just regular Forest Service and forestry employees that do timber sale work and stuff like that. And then when fire season comes, they work on fires. Some of the crews out here, we have 4 crews here on these 2 fires that are what we call hotshot crews, and they're hired strictly for a fire. They're professional firefighters.
Training is a big part of the Western Exchange program, and 19-year-old Chad Gorneau says he's learned a lot from his experience fighting fires.
We've learned to communicate. We've learned to get along with people. You learn a lot. I mean, you learn how to run pumper trucks. You learn the safeties and what kind of safety zones there are, what kind of fuels there are, and pretty much how to survive.
Jokes and laughter usually break up the tense moments while firefighting. But the firefighters say that this is routine and no different from any other fire, and their families know that their lives are at stake.
I have a wife at home and 5 beautiful kids, and I've been out on several fires. They know I go out, and the supervisors that we work for, the forest rangers, the different departments that we work for, ain't never going to put us in a situation where we're going to be directly endangered. Plus, we have 500 engines that we all watch out for each other. Like, each one is capable of fighting a fire, so we all watch out for each other. The chances of one of us being hurt are slim, but the possibility is always there.
Even though the smoke will clear up from the Boundary Water Canoe area, the fire crews will be remembered long after they leave. On the Gunflint Trail, Quinn Mosby, Channel 6 News.
It was 1 week ago today. The Duluth Police Department and state investigators pulled the body of a 42-year-old woman from this Central Hillside duplex. Police were led to what's been called the doghouse by an inmate. He told authorities the man who committed the murder confessed to him. In a search warrant filed by police, an informant says that the suspect told him the victim was beaten to death here with a hammer. She allegedly tried to fight back against her attacker before she was killed. The inmate describes his conversation with the suspect in this search warrant. He says after the suspect killed the woman, he planned to dispose of her body, but was arrested for another incident. Authorities told Channel 6 News that 42-year-old Nancy Johns was a loner. Why she was in Duluth is still a mystery. According to the search warrant, she may have met her attacker at a Duluth bus stop. She went to his house, allegedly had sex with him, and was then killed after an argument. Police have recovered 3 knives from the scene, any of which could have been the murder weapon. They have now turned the investigation over to the county attorney's office for prosecution. In Duluth, Molly McMillan, Channel 6 News.
Anything you put on your lawn, on your driveway, anything on your rooftop is going to get into the stormwater, and that stormwater, at least some of it, will get into the streams and into the lake.
The weather outside was frightful, but inside Pioneer Hall it was, well, a lot better. Large crowds of people came to Pioneer Hall to do all the things they usually do outside on the 4th: eat, and eat some more. And in a way, the indoor festivities were a plus, attracting people who might not have made the trek to town in the rain.
It's drier here.
It's drier. You just got done coming.
Well, that's why we're here. That's why we're here, because it's drier. We heard on the TV that everything was moved inside, so we come down.
So actually, from it being inside, that's what brought you here. You wouldn't be here if it was outside.
Well, that was iffy. That was iffy, but we were going to take a chance on the weather.
And then in 1993 we put out like 4 more, and last year we put out a few more. The year that we're really trying to do the big.
Well, purple loosestrife is an exotic plant. It comes from Europe, and what happens is that it tends to crowd out the native vegetation in wetland areas.
Summer. But you won't see it because the area is so big. It will spread.
Berries in it. That's the choke cherry. So this would be the pin cherry. And not there yet.
And the dry weather that we had earlier actually stimulates berry production, causes the plants to produce more berries, and then this good dose of moisture that we just got should provide plenty of moisture for the berries to ripen and get full. So we're expecting a good berry crop.
Wild strawberries. Yeah, we mix them with blueberries and Juneberries.
Do they taste like blueberries?
Well, they're a little different. They're sweeter even.
Sweeter?
They're really a nice berry, but they're a little more mealy. So some people don't like them. I really like the Juneberries.
Okay. What people are at this time, especially in the Hermantown whole, not just one individual group, and try to come up with some type of tax reform that'll be beneficial to these areas that have been hit extremely hard over the last number of years, but basically to stabilize taxes statewide. in the state to make the changes and to start making those changes.
What do you think I'm doing on my retirement? Working 2 part-time jobs so I can afford $1,200 in taxes so I don't have to go and sell it on the market. You heard them over and over and over again. And I guess the sentiment of the people is, as the last gentleman said, why is the whole system? You have to make a fair tax. You said it yourself. Property taxes are regressive. You've got to practically wait.
Tears on your face. Was this supposed to win?
Yeah, that's 350. No, that wasn't.
Primarily to show their kids a good time. One of the things that you'll find down here is that there's a lot of entertainment for the children to do and for them to watch. And the adults can help participate and watch their children have some fun.
Got in a little trouble down at the county seat. Lord, they put me in the jailhouse, loafing on the street. When the judge read the verdict.
Well, Larry Ronning is the boat builder, and he guarantees that the ship will be done by the first part of September. He's looking for volunteers to come on down and help.
Jailhouse, loafing on the street. When the judge read the verdict, it was a guilty man. He said $45, 40 days in the cage.
We went through like walks in the Kari rainforest, in the temperate rainforest. We had guided tours and they told us all about the plant and animal life, or as they say in Australia, the flora and the fauna.
I think the question is here is, do we want as a city to make this island and beach area safe, or do we want to ban swimming completely?
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Request of Councilor Hanson, creating section 24-6.3, swimming prohibited, declaring it unlawful for any person to swim in any waters surrounding Barker's Island, either by approach from shore or from a watercraft. And for a second reading.
To me, I think I'm sure that they feel possible. Try to add that in because, it bothers me that there's this whole incident being gang-related. What do you believe?
Absolutely not. None of the problems have been over gang-related reasons or nothing. It's all over people getting, beat up and stuff like that.
Like I said, groups of people, and if they're just a little tad different than everybody else, then they'll just label them as. Try to add that in because, it bothers me that, you guys don't start out and we'll be friends. We'll try to spread the word that, people shouldn't be scared.
We're not any gangs, we're just, the reason why we came to Superior because, we want to get away from them stuff, so I don't think we're in any gang or anything. You know, we're not any gang. We're just like, you know, we're just like, you know, a bunch of friends that's hanging out, you know. Just
There could possibly be some gangs that are here in Lincoln Superior, but not to the extreme that.
And I think the lesson to be learned here is that violence doesn't settle anything. All it does is escalate things. And a lot of kids have come to that realization. They're really shocked that everything went this far.
The house.
I think we've got good, strong evidence to show that someone that goes at night in an alley across an open field with a rifle, with a scope, and finds someone outside that they just had a conflict with about an hour earlier from a rival faction, rival gang, intended to shoot at him. There's one bullet that hit the victim in the head and one bullet that went on the same path and struck a different house behind where he was standing. So there's two direct shots in that exact angle at the victim.
Tom and Carolyn Neeson started Kedros Canoes earlier this year. They make and sell handcrafted wooden canoes. Each one takes an average of 80 hours to make, so a finished model is quite a production. Kedros is Greek for cedar, and to make sure the name wasn't Greek to the rest of the Twin Ports, they decided to show off their work.
Now, to add exposure to their growing business, Tom and Carolyn decided to display their canoes here along Superior's Highway 2. But they got more exposure than they bargained for. On the night of July 13th, thieves broke into their locked exhibit using bolt cutters and stole a $2,000 handcrafted canoe.
Not surprisingly, that has the Neesons upset.
It's rude. It's mean for somebody to do that. It's not like a TV that you can go replace at, you know, Best Buy or whatever. This is something that we put our own effort into.
It's also not good for the company's inventory. Obviously, a potential loss of $2,000 can hurt a small business, but Tom Neeson says he's determined to deal with the theft as a challenge.
I'm going to fight that by pushing even harder to become successful. And we're going to work just that much harder to get ahead again and get back to where we were as far as getting our inventory back up. It's going to make us feel more aggressive to become successful, to beat this challenge that we're up against right now.
The easiest way to restore inventory is, of course, to recover the stolen canoe.
I just want it back. It's not a money thing. The money is not important. We just want the canoe back. As far as prosecuting or anything like that, that's not anything that we're really dealing with right now.
The Neesons have put up flyers like this one all over Superior in the hopes that whoever stole part of their business will have a change of heart. In Duluth, Jeff Pappas, Channel 6 News.
society's changing. And I think
No matter who you support in this fall's mayor's race, there's good news in our first mayor's race poll. We polled over 500 Northlanders the week of July 8th through 11th and found that right now most of you don't plan to vote, although not all the no votes were Duluth City residents. But among those of you that do plan to vote, most of you support former Superior Mayor Herb Bergson by 5 points over incumbent Mayor Gary Doty. City Councilors Neil Atkins and David Wheeler are 3rd and 4th. And as far as city issues that are important to you, most of you said job creation was at the top of the list. This poll was conducted before the Superior shooting incident of last week. But the big news was that over half of those planning to vote don't yet have a favorite. UMD political science professor Craig Grouse says that's good news for the tail enders, but they need to attract those people in a hurry.
They've got to get their name recognized fast, and it's going to be tough to do that in the summertime. You know, in Duluth, people aren't here sometimes. They're out in cabins and thinking about fishing in the summer and all of that. We have that primary election right after we get back.
There's work for the frontrunners to do as well. One issue Grouse says may come between Doty and Bergson, and one that may show up in future polls, is that of capability.
You can play both with Doty and with Bergson because they both have been mayors. How capable are they of being a mayor? That is an issue. Some people always think of that as a personal thing, but it isn't. It's really an issue. How capable of leadership are they?
The large number of undecided shows two things to Growl. Number one, Northlanders are still playing their cards close to their vest when it comes to this mayor's election. And number two, there's still hope for all the candidates that want to call this place their office for the next 4 years. In Duluth, Jeff Papis, Channel 6 News.
And there's going to be 14 mini mills online by 1997, with this being one of them. And there's going to be such a glut of steel on the market that it's going to be such a competitive nature that some of the places will be closing.
You've heard over the past 4 or 5 years about our new creations over the last 4 contracts. We've constantly heard it. Well, over the past 6 months,
I've now gotten all the state's discovery, at least that they've given me to date. I presume it's everything that they have to date. I feel that there's definite problems with the state's case. The purported victim has given different statements to the medical personnel than she had given to police authorities. The scientific evidence that's come back, I feel, verifies what my client told the authorities, and we're as confident as you can be at this stage in a criminal case.
Novak was then granted supervised release, which means he won't have to post bail, but he will have to make regular visits to a court officer. Meanwhile, Novak's attorney, Rick Holmstrom, told the judge that there are many inconsistencies in the prosecution's case.
I feel that there's definite problems with the state's case. The purported victim has given different statements to the medical personnel than she had given to police authorities. The scientific evidence that's come back, I feel, verifies what my client told the authorities, and we're as confident as you can be at this stage in a criminal case.
Novak is a former UMD hockey player who now plays for Bemidji State. Meanwhile, the other student charged in this case, Sergei Petrov, is a current member of the UMD hockey team. He is expected to appear next month. A criminal complaint charges them with walking into an unlocked dorm room on the UMD campus and having sex with a student against her will.
Hundreds of people came out for the annual flea market in Grand Rapids, each with their own idea of what they were looking for and how much these priceless wonders cost.
Well, this here is a tire ring, or part of a Continental kit, and I intended to cut it in half and make a set of cycle fenders for a street rod, like we used to do when I was a youngster. So
I come especially when it's sunny like this today and see what I can pick up. I just bought this little butter pat, and I'll add it to my collection of about 20 other ones.
From little trinkets to antiques, you name it, it was for sale at the swap meet. But for those selling their personal possessions like Carol Erickson, some took advantage of the market to do some house cleaning.
Oh, we have comic books and little golden books and furniture and just a combination of everything.
And then you have people like Ken Waletzko, who make it an annual event to sell some items, like this 900-year-old Navajo quilt for over $1,000.
They really like the Navajo rug. The pottery, very unique. They haven't seen very much of it. The moose horns, too, have been a lot of people. Everyone that comes by is asking about them.
So no matter if you're an anchor gone hog wild or a regular customer just browsing for collectibles, there's something for everyone at this flea market. In Grand Rapids, Quinn Mosby, Channel 6 News.
We had our dive team out located in Carlton County Sheriff's Department, search and rescue dive team, just to eliminate any possibility he may have fallen in the pond. We also dove a pond yesterday, a little ways here from the property, and did not find anything there either.
The blowdown that occurred, we had some 180,000 to 200,000 acres that was damaged, and so a lot of folks are looking at what's the best thing to do, what kind of equipment will work the best.
Camera and he'll just shoot away.
Is he dropping water then? Is that what he's doing? It definitely has hurt business. Overall, the business is down, but the activity level is up quite a bit.
That's Roger, sir. Okay, let's
Your start.
Congressman Oberstar doesn't think that's going to happen. So I think rather than sort of having pie in the sky type of proposals, let's talk about what the problems are. Let's talk about how people on both sides can give a little bit, and let's try and bring people together and solve some of the problems.
Built around the country that I sold casting kits for, and so well, start to line those in the sand.
In fact, I had to go on the air while he was still in there. You know, he waited outside the studio while I went on the air and gave the weather, and I know the weather sounded very shaky when I was on doing the...
The video is spectacular, but at the same time disturbing. Huge fires along the Gunflint Trail that officials believe were started by a campfire not properly extinguished. It almost begs the question, are there more fires like these in store as the summer draws to a close?
So I think we're seeing a pattern now of hotter, drier than normal, and that's a concern for us.
That doesn't mean the DNR is standing by with fire hoses at the ready, but it does mean they'd like campers to be careful.
Much of the area affected by the recent SAG fire is again open for camping, even though in terms of fire danger, we're not out of the woods, if you'll pardon the expression. The DNR says that merely underscores the need for extra safety in the woods.
Yeah, any time you're camping, you need to get that extra pail of water before you light the fire. So if there's any sparks that take off on you, you can put them out right away without scrambling to find the bucket to get the water to put the fire out. Keep it small and put it out. That helps us a lot.
Miller says the DNR is taking a wait-and-see approach regarding the weather, hoping, like many of us, for a good soaking rain to reduce the danger more substantially. But people will still use the outdoors, and they may decide if there are any future fires.
A concern of ours, of people moving north for camping, canoeing, hiking, that they take the time with their campfires, and when they're having any lanterns or anything like that burning, is that they take time with their cigarettes to put them out and to use the extra water to make sure they're out.
Miller notes that the vast majority of campers use the outdoors responsibly, but it only takes one to create a repeat scene like this. In Duluth, Jeff Paples, Channel 6 News.
We've always said this was a learning year for us. We've learned that there's certain crops that do better, and we'll be able to sell more of than we've done this year because we'll put more in of a certain variety. We've done a lot of releasing of beneficial insects, and if you look close, you quite often see a lot of ladybugs around, especially on the potatoes. Here's one right here. And then we've put a lot of redworms to work in our compost. How about the Romas, David?
Romas are a nice canning tomato.
Romas are wonderful potatoes.
We're finding week by week the word of mouth gets out there, and we're constantly increasing the customer base, and I don't foresee that to do anything but get better. One thing that next year we'll try to keep up on a little more is the discipline in the weeding.
The weeds just overtook us in that wet weather when we couldn't get in.
Have you had to cheat on your organic ideal?
Oh, no. The weeding is what really has overtaken us this year, and I wouldn't stoop to using a herbicide, so.
Family, adopt her. Don't put her in a foster home, please. I have no medical.
Did any of those pan out?
That's good.
And it's actually not elements of those type of hearings. And obviously, foster care.
And then how long again is it before she would be eligible for adoption?
Well, under Wisconsin statutes, you can terminate parental rights.
Some of those that had before for me to meet with you more, but our hand and partnership, hoping that you...
A piece of paper is a candidate. You don't even have to...
In today's business world, there's fax, email, voicemail, and all the electronic paraphernalia. But when it comes right down to it, it still matters that people get to meet one another, exchange cards, talk personally, and form that bond of trust, and then start building partnerships that can develop business.
Offering educational opportunities to the business, networking together, you and I should be exporting, are not exporting.
You guys might want to put something out. There was a blue Ford pickup parked about 2 blocks from here. And
they would go to Labor Management Committee.
The week before the primary is always busy for political candidates. This last one was no exception. The mayor's race is in high gear. Charges and countercharges have been flying between the candidates all week long. The timing isn't surprising. According to UMD political science professor Craig Grau, this is the first week all summer long the candidates have had the undivided attention of the voters.
That's when people are paying attention because they just got off of the summer, and now they're at the hardware store trying to fix up their houses. But it's the week before the election, and now they're paying attention. So that's.
But mayor's candidates aren't the only ones on the ballot Tuesday. One city councilor and 2 school board members are in re-election fights, and Grau says those races are wide open.
You see Pretner and Glass campaigning, and you've seen their things out. I haven't seen much on Balich, and so that could be a surprise.
Grau says a Bergson-Doty general election matchup isn't a certainty. He also says you'll get more bang for your ballot if you vote on Tuesday.
The older people tend to vote, and the people who are wealthier tend to vote. So if you have a larger turnout, people who are less wealthy and younger tend to vote, and that makes a difference. And your vote makes a bigger difference in a primary than it does in a general election because there's a smaller turnout. So every vote's worth more.
In Duluth, Jeff Pappas, Channel 6 News.
just ahead of me on the lamp department.
What are people here to buy?
The lamps are probably the hottest item in the building. We had close to 300 leaded glass and assorted lamps up here today. And I think the lamps probably were the main thing here.
Okay, and what, she was a big collector. Now, where did she get some of her collection?
In the building, we had close to 300 leaded glass.
She smiles and she coos and she cries. She's a normal baby.
See her as a normal child?
Yeah, she's a special little girl, but she's just a little girl that someday is going to have a very happy home.
Tell me about that happy.
A car seat, homemade sweaters, homemade blankets. A lot of love went into some of the gifts that people have given her, and they will go with her.
Ron,
It's a high-tech project, creating spawning grounds on the Brule River for resident trout. The idea is to encourage the river's fish to repopulate naturally, so it doesn't have to be restocked. Last month, the Brule River Sportsman's Club built wing dams at points along the river. But trout also need gravel in which to lay their eggs, and the remoteness of the sites made that a problem.
And how in the world we're ever going to get gravel into some of these locations that we wanted to take taken care of. And we thought, gee, we're going to need a helicopter to do that.
They got their wish from the Wisconsin National Guard. Connections were made and 2 Black Hawk helicopters were flown in from Madison to do the job this morning. It was a good fit for everyone.
Well, this is one of the, I'd say, high points of my career, when you can have so many people working and believing in a project to the extent that they get out here and do the work themselves.
The helicopters shuttled loads of gravel from a base site to a selected bend in the river. They then placed containers in the water, releasing the gravel into the current. Volunteers and guardsmen rake the stones into their proper position, and guard officials say they can train while helping replenish the river.
We haven't even had them a year yet, so this is our first real operational sling load mission that we've ever done. So it's a good opportunity for us.
But we also have a state mission, and that's to help fight forest fires, floods, and those type of operations. And this works out good when we can work with the DNR and stuff in a non-emergency situation.
Carrying the needed gravel by canoe would have taken half an hour per trip from the nearest landing. So the Guard provided a big assist today while helping increase its own readiness. Over the Brule River, Jeff Pappas, Channel 6 News.
Plan so we could kind of do a follow-up on what happened to him, and that it should farm that he was at. And the owner was boarding there, and we took both jigs and another horse skull because she had broken her glasses and couldn't see. And so I just think that the fact that he's been so good at his job for this long and has been reasonably healthy through it, and he really has enjoyed it. I think that's the big thing. It really has been more of a partnership than any real one exciting thing that's happened.
Did you say anything to us, no? You don't want to say? You want to say anything?
The criminal complaint alleges a history of abusing the system that goes all the way back to 1981. 33-year-old Kelly Cavisto is charged with 3 counts of felony theft for wrongfully obtaining public assistance and 1 count of perjury for lying on a food stamp application. The complaint lists 3 different aliases: Kelly Jean Rogers, Kelly Jean Cavisto, and Kelly Jean Cruz.
The welfare office is located right here in the Government Services Center. It's here where people come when perhaps they've lost a job or they're making less money than the poverty level. But according to this investigation, Kelly Cavisto was working as many as 3 jobs at once and failing to report the income.
In fact, the criminal complaint states specifically that a review of the defendant's welfare file determined that this income was not reported to the agency. The complaint goes on to say that the defendant is either partially or completely ineligible for AFDC, food stamp, and medical assistance benefits from the St. Louis County Social Services Department. The complaint claims Cavisto received $7,046 illegally over a 12-year period. Bond for Cavisto has been set at $10,000. In Duluth, Bill Long, Channel 6 News.
Wilderness first! Wilderness first! Wilderness first! Wilderness wild! Keep it wild! Rules, yes! No!
I would like to see him withdraw the bill. I would like to see him basically state that he is in full support of wilderness. I would like him to extend wilderness provision or wilderness protection to the Capitogama Peninsula and reiterate his support for wilderness in northeastern Minnesota. It's a precious resource.
It was created as a multi-use park. So essentially that's what we're looking to preserve and to keep those traditional uses that were in Voyagers prior to its creation as a park, and those uses that were cut back on and curtailed by the Park Service and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
I love the cooler weather. I love the leaves changing. The fall festival here is great. The corn, the pumpkins, and the change of season.
Obstacles we feel. Lack of sidewalks, railroad crossings that are uncontrolled, lack of crossing guards on truck routes, the sub-zero temperatures during the weather. We just think 2 miles is too far for an elementary child to walk.
Concerns about how the changes affected them personally, and also how they believe it didn't make sense, that we needed to.
Because there was a conflict.
It was an impressive sight. 65,000 men at the Metrodome for a meeting of the group Promise Keepers, a group that promotes living by biblical values. Since that time, the group has come under fire from liberal and women's groups who say the group is more political than religious. But now Northlanders may get a chance to decide for themselves. Over the next 2 days, nearly 1,000 Northland men will gather here at Duluth's First Presbyterian Church for a Promise Keepers regional meeting. National leaders of the group say they hope to help these men understand how they can change their world.
And that is husbands and fathers and men of integrity in the workplace, addressing social issues like racial reconciliation, tearing down walls that divide.
Leaders of the group arrived in Duluth this afternoon. Their frustration lies with being judged as simply a male organization when they say they teach ideals nobody could be against.
And Promise Keepers tends to try to call men to those responsibilities, to those commitments to family, commitments to their communities.
In a time when other groups are calling men to take stands against violence, Promise Keepers say they've been doing that all along, saying the road to improvement starts inside.
And we have not allowed men to be all that they can be. I mean, if you look at one of the latest Budweiser commercials, you see a man using emotion to get what he wants. And sometimes we say that's all that men do, is the only emotion that we're allowed to express is anger.
This time, the group wants to take a different tack from the one used this summer. Then it was a matter of getting out their message. This time, they say it's putting that message to relevant use. In Duluth, Jeff Pappas, Channel 6 News.
Money into an operation they just bought. We think it shows that they're looking ahead to the future. These are both major efforts aimed at being better in the future, and we're real excited about it.
And what's proposed, if you look at the staff report that you...
I think that's a semantic rather than an actual difference.
Single-family zone that calls for, when you apply for a...
Enough is enough. We'll give you a little bit of time. I guess I'd be in favor of a little bit of time, but then there are no extensions, no exceptions, nothing.
I think the fact that John Dioria lied didn't confuse the jury. I think a number of them obviously understood that when you put a liar on the stand and he continues to lie, that's not proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. Okay, did you want to talk? Just move, please.
We're in the budget process right now. We will recommend rates on the 30th of October, and we're not anticipating changing that. We may change just some of the different elements within the budget, but right now we're not looking at this having any sort of a significant effect.
We're continuing our investigation. At this point, we're trying to make sure we've got all the medical reports in. We've got a few other reports that have to come in from the forensics lab. And at that time, we plan on turning our report over to the district attorney, and any further releases of information will probably come from the district attorney's office.
Light up, and the deer basically freeze because it blinds them, and then the poacher shoots them usually with a rifle but sometimes with a bow, and has the advantage of being hidden by the dark when they're gutting the animal and getting rid of it.
Thing called financial health profile, and some of the highlights for 19. Well, if you were to add, Bergson's campaign has made some kind of wild charges that there have been massive increases in administrative costs, and that just plain is not the case. When there have been increases, they have been very modest. But the mayor says that city property taxes have gone down, and then it goes on. City Hall.
Hey, look at it. Is this the new touring star?
Well, the Kirby Student Center is more a social center for the campus. It's like the living room of the campus. This is the academic center of the campus in terms of academic support. The extra support that students need for accomplishing their mission of graduating from UMD.
I honestly believe that if we had a trial of double homicide against someone relatively famous in Wisconsin, that the case would not be blown out of proportion like it was in California.
The 9-month-long O.J. Simpson trial was the focus of a forum dealing with criminal justice reform. Representatives from the legal system looked at the role of race, the police, and the media in a case that some see as a victory for domestic abusers.
Evidence has shown that he had been involved in a domestic abusive relationship with Nicole Brown Simpson for at least 10 years. The police had been called to his house a number of times and in fact had left without arresting him on a number of occasions.
The panel offered suggestions to reform our justice system, including better police training, reducing media coverage of celebrity trials, and improving race relations.
If
if you took the majority of black Americans and you asked about their perspective of the result of this case, whether you agree with it or not, their perspective is that this is a system finally worked for a black person who had the power and money to defend himself.
The forum boiled down to two perspectives. If Simpson was acquitted despite actual guilt, then the system is flawed and needs reform. If the innocent verdict is correct, then the system works. Those are perspectives legal minds will likely argue for a long time. In Superior, Dave Anderson, Channel 6 News.
With the exception that Marcia Clark perhaps relied on it too much. Despite
precincts tonight. The Duluth Heights came in. Officially, it is $7.99 for Bergson, which is 44%, and one.
Obviously, we're going to move ahead with the street improvement program. We think it's a good, solid, long-range plan. We'll continue with that, and we'll look to the future, and we'll make changes as necessary.
It was a campaign about the kids in the hillside, and I sure am, God, if there's anything I'm disappointed about, it's the low turnout in the hillside. Because nobody in this city gets the shorter end of the stick more often than those kids.
Every single day, everywhere we go, we have to deal with these attitudes. Every single day. And it's been like, and it's so frustrating. It's frustrating, you get angry, you know, you wonder, when is this going to stop?
Go get one. Oh, man. Chew on it. We can make potato figures.
You never hear the word no. I mean, the DTA has been with us since day number one. I would say at least 50–60% of the people are transported by the DTA. The communities and the people who have asked for support have been very, very helpful.
We got some singing.
Hi, guys.
You know, this is much better than me. I know, I'd rather be here than tomorrow. No, you can keep it here.
Become a very genuine and a very thriving and very real business. Okay, the way our ordinance is written up.
If somebody fails to send out notices to the neighbors, so failure to give said notice, which...
Now, you come on so strong out the woods.
There have been many unkept promises by the Miller Mall and the Stone Ridge developers, and of course, remember the Coles disaster. All three have caused environmental problems to our neighborhood. And now we're asked to trust again. Project line of property. Since that
Allow them to have more separation from their building and the highway frontage.
That report was done as a preliminary report. The final report will come.
Him live with the conditions. I mean, the way I see it, my client is going to be out of.
Currently known as the Opus Corporation project.
To answer the following question, what happens if Northwest Airlines chooses not to occupy the building?
President Keenan and councilors, that's, I believe, the same.
Checked and heard the noise coming from the ceiling, went and was about to open the trap door and changed his mind, decided that there was a fire there and he didn't want to give it any oxygen.
Julian softball season with the Nationals.
Yes.
And that's going to be good. Now we're in with Gina in there. She's strong. She's just.
Next one start. When's the first game?
Economically, it's important to maintain our competitive position at that facility by upgrading to an 8-foot wide line and putting in state-of-the-art pollution control equipment.
With his new wife, Susan, beside him, David Durenberger strode out of the federal courthouse after getting 1 year of probation. His sentence for admitting to hiding his ownership of a Minneapolis condo to claim $3,800 in rent when he stayed there numerous times in 1987. The former GOP senator was contrite today, said his sentence was fair, said he's relieved, and said he's learned a painful lesson.
I told the judge that among the sentences that hurts the most and will last the longest is loss of trust. I mean, when that happens to a public servant, I mean, that's the worst thing they can do. I mean, there's no book you can throw at a public servant that hurts more than the loss of public trust.
In addition to probation, Durenberger had to pay a fine of $1,000. He'll also have to perform 75 hours of community service. Durenberger could have been sentenced to home detention, but Judge Stanley Harris ruled Durenberger had not abused a position of public trust. For now, the former senator plans to continue teaching at the University of St. Thomas Graduate School of Business and doing healthcare consulting in Washington.
And for one reason or another, the fact that I am now committed the rest of my life to continue in a form of public service makes every day a lot better.
In Washington, Bob Beard reporting for Channel 6 News.
And
just solicited nominations for. Those include some very important programs of very high quality that are serving the students of this area, and the high regard with which employers regard graduates of UW-Superior suggests that those programs are indeed top quality programs. The faculty are also another strength of this institution. We will be the study of the university in the 21st century that Chancellor Womack was talking about. The regents are looking for ways to bring
For 3 to 6-year-olds, check out Trudy's Time and Place House from Edmark. This is the first preschool CD-ROM that lets kids learn how to tell time, read a calendar, and learn about geography. Trudy, by the way, is this big, friendly, green alligator. Kind of looks like she's related to Barney to me, but, well, toddlers seem to really enjoy her. For kids up to 8 years old, let's explore the jungle with Buzzy. It's like a grade school field trip, except instead of a crotchety teacher, the guide is Buzzy, the knowledge bug. Buzzy is a blue bug. He kind of looks like Barney, too, and depending on where the kids click the mouse, they can visit and explore jungles in Asia, Africa, or the Amazon. For kids 7 to 13, check out Thinking Things 3. This CD has a purple octopus who also looks like Barney, teaching kids about finances and helping grade schoolers work on problem-solving skills through games and puzzles and interactive special effects graphics gizmos. For 8 to 13-year-olds, this is a terrific CD, What's the Secret, Volume 2. We recommended Volume 1 last Christmas, and this one's even better. This teaches science to kids. They learn how an airplane gets off the ground, how the human brain works, what it's like in the Arctic. It uses video and graphics and sound, and even lets kids do their own experiments. Finally, for kids over 12, look at the 3D Atlas. This presents the world as a globe in 3D. You can spin or fly through it to the other side. There are hundreds of photos and satellite images and scads of statistics, a neat way to check out the planet. All of these kids' CD-ROMs come on both Windows and Macintosh platforms. None cost over $60, and all are expected to be very big sellers this Christmas season. If you've got a question about computers or high-tech stuff, you can reach us online or through our High Tech Talk page in the World Wide Web. You see the address there on your screen. Till next time, I'm Mike Wendland for NBC News.
Although the ice on Lake O'Galley can now support people, it's probably not ready for much more. The DNR says the only safe ice is the kind you put in your drink.
Ice conditions vary so fast out on the lakes and streams that I'd never risk your life or gamble with your well-being for venturing out there.
Well, I fell through where there was a spring.
Yeah, that happened.
About 7 feet of water, and I mean, when I threw everything I had, and when I hit the ice, I just scooted right back up and slid out on the ice and wiped all the water off and then continued to fish.
It may not sound serious, but falling through the ice can be extremely dangerous. Just ask Jim Dallahan. He was involved in an ice rescue in 1986 on Lake Pepin. Dallahan and 2 other rescuers fell through the ice.
Without a life jacket on, chances 9 out of 10 are you're going to suck water immediately and you're going to be in trouble. If you're in the water for 5 to 10 minutes without a life jacket, that's your life expectancy. That's it.
The DNR recommends ice thickness of 3 to 4 inches for one person to be safe. For snowmobiles, the ice should be at least 5 inches thick, and trucks shouldn't be out on the ice until it's a foot thick. Whether it's November, January, or March, the DNR says you are always taking a risk when going out on the ice. It is impossible to know exactly what is happening to the water underneath the ice. But if you do choose to go out, there are things you can do to prepare yourself in case of an emergency.
Never go alone, first of all. Always have somebody with you, and maybe even have a plan. Like if somebody does break through, have a rope that you could toss to a person, or a rake or something like that that they could hang on to. And one of the other most important suggestions is never go out on the ice at night, because at night your visibility is greatly reduced. You can't see if there is open water ahead of you, or you might be following a track and all of a sudden you find it went into open water yourselves.
Remember, ice is just a thin membrane covering a large body of water. Always be alert to changing conditions. Otherwise, you could be the one being fished out this winter. Joel Nelson for NBC News.
I don't care. It was exciting, and it was something that brought the schools together too. And we're excited to have UWS this year because you know, more competition, more food, you know, collected, and so I think it's a great program that we've started up here.
Okay, and which food shelf does it go to?
We're donating our food. Each school can determine what food shelf they want to give to.
It hasn't been a focal point for us. We have things to do here, and we're focusing on our tasks.
And you got a guillotine. That's literally Our first consideration involved locating all employees and establishing their health and safety.
It's like a dream come true for the tourism industry. After a banner summer, the recent snow means resort owners and tourism businesses are licking their chops at the prospect of a big December.
And their phone has been ringing off the hook today. They expect that they will, with this snow, they will have a record December. But even with a record December, that's only about half the occupancy they get in a peak or February weekend. So if people want to go skiing, this is probably a really good weekend to go skiing in northern Minnesota.
The prospect of even better weeks ahead has officials excited. Statewide, about $6.8 billion comes into state coffers through tourism every year. And the lucky break from the skies means a larger share of that money could come here.
I would say that we're looking at a very good winter. People tell us, the weather forecasters say it's going to stay cold all winter, so we can count on that. And I think, if we have this much snow this early, I think it's going to be pretty good.
Campbell says that the best way to tell if tourism dollars are increasing is to check employment figures at local lodges. He says those figures are trending strongly higher.
The 252 symbol. Ooh, another big hit there.
Last year, the Visitors and Convention Bureau did a study, and they
The Hess toy truck, introduced in 1964 by the Amaretta Hess Company as a thank you to its customers. It has since turned into something of a phenomenon for both children and grown-up collectors.
The Hess truck's back and it's better than ever.
And when the Hess truck does arrive, traditionally at 6 a.m. Thanksgiving morning, people really get pumped up.
It was madness. The Route 46 was blocked all over.
High in demand and limited in supply, production numbers are always kept top secret by the Hess Company. This year, though, tradition was broken when trucks were rolled out 3 days early so stations wouldn't get jammed. So why all this fuss about a little toy truck?
They're the best toy out there for the price. You can't beat it.
This year, they're $15.99, with a limit of 2 per customer. And like a Christmas miracle, batteries are included. But experts agree, as a toy and a collectible, quality is one key to its success. Other oil companies have tried, but the original Hess toy truck stands alone.
The quality extends to the longevity and the durability, and that is something that becomes of value to a collector, because if there are pieces missing or pieces are broken or deteriorate, there's no collectible value to it.
You gotta remember, our toys are 32 years old. And
Mark Scherzer knows a lot about the value of these trucks, too. He's the king of the Hess truck hobbyists, with about 750 in his personal collection, worth about $150,000.
first year's truck, which started at $1.39, is now worth about $3,000. So we think that's about 2,200 times appreciation, and not a bad investment.
So how can you best take advantage of your Hess truck investment?
Most important thing as a collector is condition.
And that includes the condition of the box, which in many cases is worth as much as the truck.
If you really want to save it for investment, buy it at the station and put it away and forget about it.
But try telling that to a 4-year-old. A solution? Buy 2. Write one off for child's play and put one away, perhaps as an investment for a rainy or snowy day.
Dear Santa Claus,
please bring my presents early to my house.
And have a safe trip. Enjoy the cookies we left for you. Love you.
The mail from kids keeps pouring in. This child, knowing who really wields the power at the North Pole, writes, I want this letter to go to Mrs. Claus. Another child writes, I try to be good, and I hope you find our house since we moved last year. This child didn't write anything, just sent Santa some money-saving coupons for the toys he wants. And this one explains, I've been trying not to fight with my brother. I know it's hard to believe, but it's true. What's also hard to believe, but true, are letters like this one. A mother of 3 writes that someone broke in my house and stole all my children's clothes and food. They're in need of clothes more than toys. A little girl fighting cancer tells Santa she met a lot of other sick kids in the hospital, so even if you can't bring me everything I ask for, please give them what they ask for. And a little boy writes, last Christmas I didn't get anything. My mother does not have a job. She doesn't get any income. I need clothes. Postal employees adopt as many of the needy children as they can, but they cannot fill all the Christmas lists. They depend on people like Forestine Shaw. Her church decided to help because they know what every child really wants for Christmas.
Somebody who cares. Just somebody who cares.
And who couldn't help but care about these little letter writers, especially those that say things like, this isn't anything about presents. I just want you to have a safe journey on Christmas Eve. Rod Starnes for NBC News.
Which is the way until tomorrow comes around.
He was Aya, Jamaican for brother, a 34-year-old reggae artist who sang about peace and harmony. His shows were a performance, but they were no act. Early last night, Eric Heim was shot dead in his South Minneapolis apartment. He was with 4 friends when 2 gunmen with ski masks kicked in the door, ignored the others, and went directly to Heim.
The accident was caused primarily by people failing to yield and not having proper following distances and driving according to conditions.
This time of year, kids go to school and afterward basketball practice, but not these kids. They don't go to school. They learn their lessons at home. And until now, homeschoolers didn't have an avenue to play organized sports. The Albuquerque Suns, that's S-O-N-S, are the first Christian homeschool basketball team in the city. The attempt to organize is new.
At this point, it's very successful. I mean, the kids are more dedicated than I've found anywhere in the city, really. And I've worked with a lot of kids in the city. They work hard. They work as a team together. They've learned a lot.
I've been wanting to play basketball at high school level for a long time. And I thought it was something I would never be able to do.
These kids are wrong. They've never been coached.
It's a good challenge. It's a very good challenge. They've really showed me dedication. And it's taken a lot of patience as far as I'm concerned, but it's been outstanding.
There are 2,700 homeschoolers in the Albuquerque area, 11,000 in the state. Right now, the Suns have 16 players for 2 boys teams, a varsity and junior varsity. They do have a girls team, but no coach. As soon as they get a coach, the girls will play too. The Suns tried to join the NMAA. They said no, so their alternative was to form their own league. Next year, they hope to have 8 to 16 teams just in boys basketball alone. Other sports could field teams later.
That's what our goals are towards, is doing other sports and just using basketball as a foundation since it is popular here.
I can just see a whole sports program with all sports activities and being able to compete at the NMAA level.
Well, I think with any development that you have to be very careful about how you do that development. There has to be a balance between the environment and providing jobs to the community, providing retail to the community, and I think that we've done a good job of that. There were a number of compromises that took place in the Miller Hill area, in the Opus development and the potential Dayton's development. And I'm not opposed to the signatures that were put together. And I'm not opposed to that going on the ballot. I'm going to be talking about something tonight that will address development in the future, however.